Hey guys, it's Carson here on behalf of Scottsdale School of Film and Theater, and today we're going to be doing another tech demo. We're going to be covering C-stands. So before we get too far in, it's fair to address that there are multiple parts to the C-stand. It's not just entirely a C-stand. So first we have the legs of the Sentry stand. Then we have obviously the knuckles up here. Up top here we have the gobo head or grip head. And then we have the gobo arm. It's important to just make sure you know all these items because they can come in different sizes, or there's different ways to utilize them individually. So here we have our C-stand. So I'm gonna act like I just grabbed this off the truck or the taco cart and I'm about to plant our stand. So our first tip would be maybe throwing this over your shoulder if you have the spatial requirements necessary. As you can see, I'm gonna check over my back shoulder there, kind of just throw the stand over, and this is gonna allow me to kind of shift the weight of the stand over to my center of gravity and kind of freeing up my hands, which will then allow me to loosen this bottom knuckle and rotate my legs counterclockwise. My legs are facing down towards my feet. This counterclockwise rotation will kind of take care of all the work for you. The legs will catch on themselves and fall into place here. Kind of give it a jiggle, see it's not moving. Okay, I'm ready to go. I'll tighten my bottom knuckle and plant my stand. So when I lay my legs down, I'm going to keep this one kind of golden rule in mind, is that the tallest leg or the highest leg should be under your weight. So the idea is if I have a modifier over, I want that weight over top of my tall leg. So now we're coming up to the knuckles. Another little helpful tip that I could share with you is always start with the tallest, or the highest riser rather. You want to be taking the knuckles up from the highest riser, because if I were to employ all of this height and need to go to the next riser, I could easily access this from the bottom of the stand. Could easily access this from the bottom of the stand, as opposed to doing it the alternative way, which I use the bottom knuckle, bottom riser first, max that height out. In certain scenarios, hypothetically for this one, I would have to reach up and modify that knuckle up there, as opposed to just grabbing one that's on the lower, closer to me, easier to conduct. All right, next up here, we're up to the grip head or Sentry head and the gobo arm. I kind of messed that up. The gobo head and the gobo arm, excuse me. So when we have this here, another little helpful rule would be to always have the weight on the right side of the gobo knuckle. So if we're looking at our gobo head here, our gobo knuckle is this big guy. I'm gonna make sure that the weight of my modifier is leaning on that right side. So when I tighten it, lock it down, the weight of the actual unit or modifier will then continue to tighten down the gobo head. If you were to have it the alternative way, to where our weight was on the left side, that would fight you, and over time you'd actually end up loosening this gobo head. So again, another helpful thing is just keeping that weight on the right side of the gobo knuckle. All right, so keeping that in mind, we've finished our day. I'll go ahead and pack this guy away. No real specialty to that, just kind of straightening all the knuckles and lining everything back up. All right, and to take down the legs, we're gonna do the same kind of thing. Point that tall leg down, loosen our bottom knuckle, and I'm gonna rotate clockwise this time to kind of undo that initial spin. So my legs are again lined up, everything's in place. I'm locking down that bottom knuckle, sorry. And then I'll just once over the rest of my knuckles, make sure that they're all tight down. The only reason I'm doing that is because if I had a loose riser and I decided to pick this stand up, travel it this way, you could have this kind of trombone out and hit something behind you that you're not looking out for. So again, just making sure that you are tightening all those knuckles, everything's down, I'm ready to pack this away. So what I mean to communicate when I say that is just always keep in mind that you want to set your stands up in a way that, I guess, limit the amount of space it's taking up on set without jeopardizing its safety or, I guess, the purpose that it has. So if you have a modifier in play, obviously do everything you can to make sure that modifier is useful, but you can also keep in the back of your mind that you can make it a little bit more safe, a little bit more tight-knit, and a little bit more, I guess, overall neat. So I'll show you this idea of underslinging. This is something I utilize quite a bit. If I'm ever in a scenario where my modifier needs to be a little low or maybe even base height with my stand, such as so, let's say the modifier is out here, I still have all this extra arm in the way. I mean, people could be crossing you and then have to go underneath it, all sorts of things. One thing you could do to just really minimize the space you're taking on a horizontal plane would be to choke up the arm, give yourself a new angle. You might need to employ a little bit more height of your stand, but this will allow for movement on the right and left now. You're not taking up as much horizontal space, and as long as you're aware of what's above you, you're ultimately creating a lower profile stand with still getting the job done. And of course, I still have my weight on the right side. Another little useful tip while we're here is that this arm can also be used as essentially a baby pin. So anything that has a baby pin receiving end, like a Fresnel unit 650 for example, you could place that on this leg. Of course, you could go all the way up to Kino flows, but you just want to be conscious of the weight you're adding to this arm, as the way that it holds the weight will in turn kind of bend it if it's too heavy. So as long as you're respectful of its weight and using the right units, you can stick anything that has a baby receiver on this end. Alright, I'll return this back to our original position. Alright. So another thing that most people don't know when they first initially are using the C-stand is its ability to get over steps or differences in height for your base legs. I know that sounds confusing, but this is usually referred to as like a Rocky Mountain technique. So you have your top leg here, which has the knuckle on it to tighten the base and lock it down. If you loosen that up, you can then change the height of your highest leg. So what this will allow you to do in scenarios where you need to get over a curb or maybe use a sentry stand on a stair set, you can still have that top leg bearing the weight of your modifier, but you can have a difference in plane on the 3 points of your base. So a difference in height rather. If you were to think of it this way, you have the top leg on the stair set, and then you have the other two legs of your base on the floor. So that would just still allow for the weight to be over the center of the stand, kind of still maintaining that center of gravity. But then we'll get you out of tricky situations where you do need to employ that. So next we have soldering C-stands, and this is mostly important for staging them or packing them away. Soldering is basically just the idea that you're packing the stands neatly together. Everything's uniform, all the arms, all the knuckles are facing the same way, but they're still positioned in a way that you can grab and go to set if need be. So we'll show you that now. It's basically just keeping that top leg over on the right side. And as you can see, they're still super easy to pull away, but you can stack more stands in a smaller area and still have them readily available to go. Let's follow the line. So you can do this up to 15, 20, however many stands you have and want to use. If I need to head the set on a whim, just go grab it and go. It's not getting caught of anything. And it just looks neat. Everything's uniform, it's taking up a smaller space, and it's just neat. Really adds to the professional look that you'll start trying to develop for yourself on set as a grip. If I had my stands out like this, and I was getting a call from set that I needed a C-stand, and I grabbed one and I gotta fumble around with it now. If I just know that it's uniform in a soldering stance, I can always grab with confidence and leave easily. And that's all we have for today's tech demo on the C-stand. Hopefully it clarified some questions you may have had, or just gave you some examples on how to use your C-stand differently. I'll catch you on the next tech demo. Points!